I'm going to tell you how I got past the V4 or 512A climbing plateau. It's a strategy that has not only saved me a bunch of time, but it's also allowed me to climb fairly injury-free for the last 7 months. And why you should trust me is I'm not some V10 or 514 crusher that's telling you how to climb V4. That's a little insane. I am right there with you. I know exactly what it's like to be super frustrated with progress, and so I hope you can find this video useful. I'm gonna break down this video into 3 parts. 1, my climbing lifestyle change, 2, injuries, and 3, advanced tips for generating power. Part 1, my climbing lifestyle change. I went from climbing 2 to 3 times a week indoors, once a week on the weekends, and maybe hangboarding about once a month, to just climbing indoors once a week, outdoors maybe once a week, and hangboarding twice a week. I've been climbing for the last 10 years, doing sport, boulder, and trad, and nothing has impacted my climbing quite like following this new routine. I'm spending less time in the climbing gym because I'm not doing 3 2-hour climbing sessions a week. What prompted this climbing lifestyle change was I was climbing with this random guy I found on Mountain Project that was much stronger than me, and I told him some of the issues I was facing. I was getting ready for this 12-hour climbing competition that was a part of the 24 Hours of Horseshoe Hell in Arkansas. And like I've done in the past, when I'm getting ready for some big climbing trip, I will ramp up the amount of time that I spend climbing. But like every single year, when I ramp up the climbing and I'm starting to feel strong, I start to feel pain in my fingers and I start to get injured, whether it's pulley strains or just overuse injuries. This crusher gave me advice that frankly I wish I had followed about 8 years ago when I stopped seeing progress. He told me to climb indoors less and hangboard more, and I decided to follow it. And after the first month of doing this routine, my fingers felt so much healthier and stronger. And not only that, I was also seeing improvements in my strength. I was able to send a V5 in one session, a 12A that granted was a one move wonder, but I was able to send a 12A in only a couple goes. And this is just after doing this routine for a month. Now after following the routine for 7 months, I've been able to try a lot harder on the wall and see improvements in my climbing that otherwise I feel like I would have gotten injured in the past or not felt the courage to actually pull super hard on the wall. Now my fingers are feeling fit and ready to try hard. The hangboarding routine that I followed for basically the first 6 months was fairly simple. It was a routine that I found from Dave McLeod, who's a crusher, and he's done a lot of research into finger health and the anatomy of your fingers. I sort of modified it to fit my own needs, and it was basically a 10 to 15 minute routine where I would hang for 10 seconds and then take a 50-second break for 15 minutes, progressively going from larger to smaller holds. I went from hanging on the jugs to the largest in-cut edges, and then progressively to smaller edges when my fingers were feeling ready to move on to smaller rungs during that specific session. I would basically be hanging every single minute on the minute for 15 minutes, and then it was done. And that leads me to part 2, which is injury prevention and just injury management. Now, before I get into the injury section, everybody's different. This is what has worked for me. It might not work for you. I have encountered just about every single climbing injury that you can think of related to the hands. I've ruptured a pulley, I've had cysts that have had to be surgically removed, I've had overuse injuries in about every single one of my fingers, and I just thought that I was cursed. I thought I was gonna be stuck at V4 for the rest of my life. This climbing lifestyle change, not only did it cause me to feel stronger, but it also caused my fingers to feel a lot healthier. And it worked greater than a lot of the remedies that you see on the internet relating to climbing injuries. I've tried rice bucket workouts, I've tried working antagonist muscles, I've tried warming up for really long periods of time before doing a bouldering session, but nothing was really working. I even tried hangboarding in the past while I was rehabbing a finger injury, only to stop hangboarding after that finger was feeling healthy, only to get injured about a couple months later, like I always do. And so with my fingers feeling really healthy from this climbing lifestyle change, I started to implement techniques to increase power, which brings me to part 3. Part 3, advanced tips for generating strength. In addition to my climbing lifestyle change, over the past few months, I've started employing max hangs and board climbing as ways to improve my strength. These tips are a little bit more nuanced, and frankly, there's a lot of advice on the internet about avoiding doing these things until you have a good base of strength to start doing them. I have been climbing for the last 10 years, and I've been hangboarding for now the last 7 months, and so my fingers were feeling fit and ready to hang with more weight. Max hangs are a tool that a lot of climbers use to increase the amount of strength that your fingers have. What a max hang is hanging from a rung on the hangboard, most commonly a 20mm edge, for about 5 seconds with more weight than your body weight. The routine I followed was borrowed from a lattice climbing video, and I will warm up and build up to that 20mm edge, and then eventually, once I'm feeling ready, start adding weight. The difference between the other hangboarding workout and this one, in addition to the weight, is that the rest period in between hangs is longer. So now I'm resting 2 minutes, whereas previously I was only resting 50 seconds. Eventually I will keep on adding weight onto my harness until it's really hard to hold on, but I can still hold on for those full 5 seconds. In addition to the max hangs, I'm also starting to climb on the moon board or the tension board. I used to be really scared of these things, and I used to not climb on them at all because if I did climb on them, I would get super discouraged because they're so stinking hard. But I think these boards represent more accurately what it's like to climb really hard routes that are found outside. All of the holds on a moon board are really bad. It's a lot about keeping body tension, and it has that just killer overhang that causes you to be super precise and focused with all of your movements. You need a lot of power to climb on these things, and I've found that it translates well to outdoor climbing. Similar to max hangs, my sessions on the moon board have a lot of rest in between attempts. I think that was another issue with when I was just go about the gym climbing whatever routes I wanted to. With the moon board, I'm trying to take a much more focused approach. And so with each attempt on the moon board, I will rest anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes between attempts, just so that my fingers are ready for that next go. I'm being careful not to max hang and moon board on the same days because they're both really aggressive on the fingers. I'll devote separate days to hangboarding and separate days to board climbing, and then separate days to also climbing in the gym. And so those are my core pieces of advice for how I am getting past the V4 climbing plateau. I hope you've enjoyed the video and learned something about climbing. If you disagree with my approach, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. Or if you have found something else that's been really incremental in allowing you to climb past V4, let me know about it. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.